Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Sorry for the delay. Uh, my name is Ruben Sterling. We're in the Google Los Angeles office today. It is my pleasure to introduce Noa Epstein, CEO of Middle East Education Through Technology. Middle East Education Through Technology, or MEET, brings together Israeli and Palestinian students for computer science and business education. So I was an early instructor, and it's grown a lot since I was there, and I'm really excited to see what they've been up to.
Thanks very much, Ruben, and thanks very much for all of you for coming to this talk. My name's Noah, as Benji said, and I come from Jerusalem. I'm here on a kind of US trip. We had two of our alumni invited to present their mobile app, one Israeli and one Palestinian, 17-year-olds. And they were supposed to do that in New York last week, which of course got cancelled because it was supposed to be in Battery Park at the All Things the Mobile Tech Conference. But the good news is that they still got their message out, and I'm going to be showing you that as well. So really today's talk is about an example of how technology and the spreading of knowledge is being used to disrupt a situation which for many years people have been trying to tackle and solve, which is the Middle East conflict, and how, as an organization called MEET, we're bringing together young Palestinian and Israeli youth who have leadership potential, and we're teaching them this common language of technology, of computer science and business, and bringing them together in an environment that can rearrange and recategorize group boundaries so that they can develop a common language and actually get things done together. So let me start by giving you a bit of a glimpse of what it is like to be an Israeli or a Palestinian today living in the Middle East. How many of you have been to Jerusalem? Okay, so we have a knowledgeable crowd here. So as you know, the situation in the Middle East, in Israel-Palestine, is such that the societies are very much divided. We have a physical wall that separates communities, but there's also a mental wall of stereotypes and misconceptions, and this is something that is really hard to overcome. So I grew up in Jerusalem, but until the age of 14, when I first joined the program that brought together young Israeli and Palestinian students, I had never met a Palestinian in my life before that time. And most of the people my age never come into contact with a Palestinian, I'm Israeli, unless it's in the context of the conflict. So at a checkpoint, or through the very negative image of the other that we see on the news. Over the years, there have been many efforts and many valuable efforts to bring the societies together and to create bridges, especially between young people, to break down stereotypes, to create friendships in the hope that that will transform sort of the next generation and help us create the wanted peace that everyone aspires to. But there's several challenges with the models of organizations that have been doing peace building in the past couple of years. Or more than that, in the past decade actually. So at the basis of all these organizations and concepts is the notion of contact. So contact theory has it that if you bring people together, they get to know each other as individuals, and they're able to create that interpersonal trust, which is critical to, again, dissolving the stereotypes and negative images of the other. And there's two sides to the spectrum here of the type of interaction you can create when you bring two opposing sides together. One is the individualistic theory, where you say, if I get to know Noura better, okay, I will trust in her and then be able to work together with her to solve a common challenge. The other side of the spectrum says, let's bring groups together, groups that represent their national constituencies. So you sit people around in a circle, and Palestinians and Israelis suddenly represent their nations, and they discuss the hot political issues like refugees and settlements and terror attacks, and it's all on the table, and it's very, very vibrant and difficult. I've been involved in such encounters personally. But then you reach a point where people realize that at the end of the day, they don't represent the entire group, and they can't solve the political conflict through negotiating with a circle of people. So the existing models have challenges that the people who founded MEET, Middle East Education Through Technology, in 2004, These people were trying to figure out a model that will address these challenges and create something different. So basically, they wanted to do something that can scale beyond the individual interaction. They wanted to do something that is long-term, so not sending people off to, say, an experience of a month or a week abroad. There's lots of student programs that bring together Israeli and Palestinians and send them off to like a delegation to Switzerland or other places, and it's great, but it's a bubble. And what happens there then, comes back and tends to get dissolved when they're back home in the harsh reality of the conflict. And most of all, the people who founded Meet wanted to create something that's long-lasting and goes beyond the experience of the interaction itself. So the Meet approach to bridging the societies and to create something that will help affect positive change between Israelis and Palestinians is first of all an excellence model. So Meet is an NGO, and we run an educational excellence program for excelling high school students from Israel and Palestine. And the idea here is that it's not a numbers game, and it never will be. So we spend our resources on selecting those individuals at the age of 15 from both sides that we believe have leadership potential, and we invest in them for 3 intensive years when they're still living at home. So this is part of their everyday reality. And they go through this program that teaches technology and business skills. Okay, they actually learn computer science, Java, Python. I'll touch on what they actually do in a minute. And the focus is on a skill set. The focus is not on coming and just getting to know each other, but actually giving them something that's a vested interest for them to continue coming to the program, because it's an excellence program and it's in partnership with MIT. The mission of Meet is to educate and empower tomorrow's most promising Palestinian and Israeli leaders so that they can then affect change, whether it's political, social, or economic, in the Middle East, in their region. And how do we do this? We do this by creating a network. So as I said, we invest in people as they enter high school, and they go through a 3-year program during which they get to study from instructors that come from MIT every summer to Jerusalem. And through this experience, these students become part of a network which essentially is long-lasting and lifelong. Like if you graduate from the top universities I'm sure you all have gone to, you're part of something that is bigger and can last you a very long time. And if you want to then start a company, or if you want to figure out the next step in your life, more often than not, you'll turn to this network and you'll be able to really leverage it to make a difference and to do something. And that's something that does not exist between Israelis and Palestinians before Meet was started. So what do we actually do at Meet? What does the program look like? The first phase is a student program. It's 3 years long, and it's composed of 3 summers, 5 weeks each, in Jerusalem at the Hebrew University, where instructors come as volunteers from MIT, from Sloan, and from the computer science department, CSAIL, to teach our students everything from the kind of common language of technology, so Java and Python, how to write a business plan, how to think strategically about a problem, how to come up with a marketing plan. So they actually work on real projects with real-world companies. We've done a software for HP that the student had to develop. We've created marketing plans for selling touchpads to women over 50. And this is all stuff that the students would not get a chance to do, definitely not at this age, and definitely not with people from the supposed enemy side. In between those 3 years, where we have those summer camps, 5 weeks each, we have a year-long program that happens every day at our lab in Jerusalem. So students come from Bethlehem, Ramallah, East and West Jerusalem, some smaller cities around West Jerusalem, and for the first time this year from the north of Israel as well, Arabs and Jews from the Nazareth area. And in our program hubs, these students continue to learn and develop their skills. Whereas in the first year, they might, create a calculator or learn basic Java to program something, a small computer game like Snake or something like that. In the second year, they're already developing websites and starting to think creatively about what can they actually create that makes a difference. One project they did last year was called BioBook, where They were taking people's information from sort of Facebook and other Google Plus and other sources, and then trying to create like a biography that's written down and they can submit if they're going to, for a job interview or to give a speech somewhere. So these kind of applications are at the second year, whereas in the third year, students really start thinking about how can their projects have a wider impact, which is really what we educate them to do at Meet. And in the past summer, we had a very interesting project called Count Me In, which I'm going to tell you about soon. And that's a mobile app for Android, which coordinates collective action on a large scale. Think Arab Spring and the kind of applications that can have. So after the 3-year student program, we've got a very interesting situation. 2 years ago, we started to see alumni coming since 2004 and joining us again in the summer and saying, guys, we want to get back involved. And this is incredible because you see people who are now 20 to 23-year-old, they're at university, some of them are in the army on the Israeli side, and they really want to engage back within Meet. So we developed an alumni program, which is really to ensure the next stage of Meet's impact. And as part of the concept here is really to ensure that there is this network that is not just keeping tabs of their success, but that as an organization, we are actively assisting them in the next stages of their careers and helping create or enable an opportunity for them to interact together again. One element of this is just to ensure that they can keep seeing each other. So we have 4 annual events in Jerusalem where alumni come back and hear lectures and go through courses and can just be with each other again in a stimulating environment. The second is professional development. So we're really helping our alumni figure out which university to go to, how to get in, how to get a scholarship. We're turning to mentors, which is a huge resource we have at Meet because of our wonderful instructors who've been teaching on the program and end up then working in almost any top company in today's industries. So we're able to really connect and make those one-to-one matches for our alumni to then be successful in their endeavors. The third and most exciting, I think, element of the alumni program is the Venture Lab. And this is something I wanted to tell you Googlers about because we've already got Google Tel Aviv very involved in this, and also the office in Mountain View has been very helpful. What we're doing is we've created an open space, a shared space for our alumni to come back and interact and work on real projects by themselves this time. So it's not so much guided by us, but it's, it can be a pair of people coming back and saying, we want to develop this app and we're not sure how to get started, and Meet will connect them with the resources that they need. But mostly they have a space where they can physically sit together and talk about this and come up with creative ideas, which is very unique. If you've been to Jerusalem, you know that such spaces where both sides can just come and interact in a creative environment are almost unheard of. So the Venture Lab is at the point where we're building up the network of mentors and speakers who come in sporadically and give a talk at the lab, a tech talk or business talk or something about social enterprise. So that's for you to keep in mind next time you're in the region. Who are our students? Where do they come from and what are they like? So our students come from 7 cities, as I mentioned, from the Jerusalem area, from Bethlehem, from Ramallah, and from the north of Israel. And they're 15 when they enter Meet. They're very excellent academically and socially, so they have to go through a rigorous 3-stage process to actually enter Meet. And once they're in, they get a full scholarship for the whole 3 years. So it's a very competitive program, and we take pride when we say that we have under 10% admittance rate. So this year we had 700 applicants for only 60 spots. So it's very hard to get in, and this is part of Meet's different kind of model. We have a brand equity that we've built up because of the affiliation with MIT and because of the really top-notch educational program that we run. And this enables us to pull the best students on both sides. People who don't necessarily want to come and meet the other side, but they want to come and learn computer science because they're passionate about technology and they really want to improve their skills in a program that offers them those kind of opportunities. We have 50% girls and 50% boys, obviously 50% Israeli and Palestinian. And that's really unique because you come into the Meet Lab and you see groups of young people, many girls, some of them religious, some not, Israeli, Palestinian, and they're all working on developing these apps and websites, and it's really empowering to see that and to see what's possible when you give people such an opportunity and you bring them together around knowledge. In the coming 2 years, my professional partner, who's Ala Sader, co-director of Meet, and we're working to do two main things. One is to scale this model. So I said before, Meet is not about numbers, but we do want to bring in, we have now 100, so 200 students at any given time to this program. We're doing this by opening a new program hub in the north, in Nazareth, and we're also reaching out to a new demography. So as you know, Israel and Palestine, when we talk about a leadership network, it's really critical to also involve the Palestinian citizens of Israel. So Palestinians who are living inside Israel today, and for the first time this summer we've done that. We've got a pilot group of students from the north, Jewish and Arab. We've kind of closed the triangle of Israeli and Palestinians in the region as part of this network. The third thing we're doing is the alumni program. And here the Venture Lab is the biggest focus, and we're really looking to create support and rally people to be part of this amazing open space, joint workspace in Jerusalem, where people can come together, alums in binational or uninational projects. So the example of one of the ventures that are being developed at the moment is one I want to share with you today called Count Me In. Let's see if the video will work, because Amin and Yuval, two of our alums who worked on this, can tell you firsthand what it is about. So these are two guys who were invited to present at All Things D. And because the conference got cancelled due to the hurricane, unfortunately,
I'm 17 years old.
made sure that
I'm
they
an Israeli,
could present
and I live in Jerusalem.
in front of the camera.
I'm Amin.
Just 1 second. This is at the hotel room of the All Things D organizer, who was very, very helpful to us.
Hi, I'm Yuval. I'm 17 years old. I'm an Israeli, and I live in Jerusalem.
I'm Amin. I'm a Palestinian. I'm 17, and I live 5 minutes away from Yuval. Geographically, we live really close, but socially, we're worlds apart. There's no social interaction between the Palestinian and Israeli communities. For most of my life, I didn't know any Israelis on a personal level. I didn't have any Israeli friends. All I knew was that they live in the same city that I do.
We live in different cultures, and that was our situation up until 3 years ago, when we got selected to this program called Meet.
Meet, Middle East Education Through Technology, is an educational excellence program which teaches computer science and business to Israeli and Palestinian high schoolers in partnership with volunteer instructors who come from MIT. Its aim is to create an active network of leaders who can create positive change in our region.
Meet is a very intensive program. We study computer science and business each summer for 3 years. We also meet for a four-hour weekly meeting where amazing instructors from MIT come and teach us Java, Python, leadership skills, marketing strategies, and so on. But most importantly, in Meet, we got to know more about each other. I got to know about Amin, the other side, and the Israel-Palestinian conflict.
And during those 3 years, my friends were asking me, why do you do this? Why do you wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning for 5 days a week during your summer vacation, when you should be on the beach? Why are you doing this? And you're going to learn computer science with a bunch of Israelis, no less. My answer to them was the same. First of all, Meet challenges me. It's given me an opportunity to learn computer science at a level that Palestinian high schoolers don't get. But also, I've managed to make a connection with people who I thought I couldn't connect to. I found out that Israelis aren't so different from me. We have some similarities, and although I don't always agree with Yuval's political opinions, I can come to respect him as a person. And that relationship is really important to me.
In the second year, Amin and I got to work on the same project in the same team. We managed to turn our competition into cooperation, and we realized that once we worked towards common goals together, the results were amazing.
But then last summer, when we were just about to graduate from the Meet program, we realized that the relationship which we've been building up for the past 3 years might be about to disappear. And that's something that we would not allow to happen. So we decided that we would take action. We would do something to make sure that after we graduated from Meet, we could stay connected.
Our experience in Meet has taught us how important technology is. A recent example is the Arab Spring, where an individual's idea got spread to the mass using Facebook and Twitter. That's why we decided to use technology in order to solve a problem and stay connected. We decided to develop a mobile application called Count Me In. Count Me In is currently being developed by us in the brand new Meet Venture Lab. The Meet Venture Lab is a place where Meet alumni can come together and work on various startups and projects in binational teams.
Count Me In is an application for group event coordination. This means it gives its users the ability to create an event and then invite others to join them. For us, Count Me In was a way for the 30 students in our year to stay connected after they graduated from Meet. And so that we could say, guys, let's all go play soccer after school on Monday. It would happen, Count Me In. But then, as we started working on this application, we realized this could be something more. This could have an effect on hundreds of thousands of people. What if we want to clean the park and we want 500 people to help us do it? Click Count Me In. What if we want 1 million people to save electricity in the next 2 days? Click Count Me In.
We really believe that the youth generation, our generation, has the power to change our society's future. And Count Me In was our way to do that. It was our way to connect and to affect. But in order to create a bigger change in the Middle East, we need a critical mass, and you can be a part of it. We've come all this way just to meet you, but unfortunately, Hurricane Sandy got here first.
That's some bad luck. If there's one thing we learned from Meet, is that we don't give up.
So please, stay in contact with us, email us, check out the Meet Facebook page, the Meet website, and our Indiegogo campaign. The Venture Lab is waiting for you. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the last frame was from Times Square. And that was Amin and Yuval, who are two of our alums. We also have a number of alums in the States now. One is called Subhi. He's right now in a startup in the Valley. This is a 20-year-old guy, and we have 4 of our Palestinian alumni studying at MIT at the moment. So, since 2004, we've come quite a long way. Benji can tell you that we started off as a very small organization. It actually started as a one-off summer. No one knew that it's going to have this effect and impact. But then after the summer, the students were coming and saying, okay, what's next? How can we sign up for more? So Meet has grown, and we're now at a really critical stage where, with this Venture Lab, we're working hard to make sure that we can actually see these type of projects in Meet's vision develop. So we actually really need your help, both in spreading the word and getting involved more than that. And here are some examples of how. So we've now formally set up a matching campaign with Google. So you have the internal system, which you know about, so Meet is now part of that. And if you or your fellow Googlers would like to give the smallest amount even to Meet, then that would be really, really welcome and really helpful to help fund student scholarships for Israelis and Palestinians. The second way to get involved is as a mentor. If you can give, even remotely from here, an hour once every 2 months, or even as almost one-off, to give a tech review to one of the projects our students are developing, or to help people think through a business idea, depending on your area of expertise, then that's really valuable. And merely the contact that they can have with Google as abroad and the kind of role models that we want to expose them to is really helpful in what we're trying to do as part of our educational mission. Thirdly, if you have a crazy idea for a project you'd love to do and don't have the time, or something that you've had in your mind, then our students want to know about this. So you can come up with a project you think would be a really cool challenge to set for the students in the summer, and maybe even come to the summer for a couple of days and be a judge on a competition that we do for that. So there's really a lot of room for creativity and ideas, and we really want to source these from you and involve you. If you're ever in Jerusalem, do tell us. we're really easy to access. We're situated right next to the YMCA in front of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem. Our lab is there, and there's always something happening. There's always an opportunity to come give a talk or just come and meet us and see the students and alumni in action. And lastly, I really mean it when I say help us spread the word. So we talked about MEET's mission, which is educational, to empower our students to create impact. Part of our mission is also to inspire hope. Those of you who know Palestinians and Israelis personally, you know that a lot of people have really lost hope, and it's more common to find people who say, you can't change anything. It's just a lost cause. All these efforts and the Oslo process and everything, and it's just getting worse and worse back home. I think MEET, for me, this is the reason I am part of MEET. MEET gives me hope because it's being part of something almost like a social experiment when you say, let's imagine that there wasn't a conflict a second. Let's imagine there was no occupation. Let's imagine that the situation was just normal between Israelis and Palestinians. What would then cooperation look like? What would happen if you brought really sharp minds together around technology and business and challenged them to think big, to think creatively? What would be the result? And we see the result every single day when we work with these amazing students in partnership with our amazing instructors who come from the US, from MIT. And that's a kind of picture that's really hard to put into words. But as much as we can, this is why I come here and talk about it. And as much as you can tell people about this, I think that also in itself is going to make a difference. Toda, shukran, thank you. And now I'd like to open it up to a discussion or questions or whatever really you would like. If people have any comment or you want to ask a bit more about the program, feel free. Just introduce yourself as well. Benji.
So in the video, was it Amit and Yuval? Is that there? Amin and Yuval. So their English was obviously very good. And I remember when I was an instructor, one of the principal sources of frustration for the students and the instructors was a lot of the kids, didn't have the English skills. Obviously they were selected, they could speak English, but many of them didn't have, fluent English. And that was a source of frustration. I was wondering what's been the experience since then, and have you been able to figure out strategies to deal with that?
So at MEET, we have the offering is really around computer science and business. That's what the kids know that they're going to get, okay? The second layer is the fact that they get to know each other, which is for us the core goal. And there's other layers to kind of what happens as a result of MEET, one of which is really improving your English, which is a huge pull mechanism. The parents, which we invite to the pre-MEET parent event, they're all excited about knowing from friends and so on that at MEET, their kids are really going to become fluent in English. And that's the case today, where we have something called the English rule. So people are expected, both instructors and the students, to speak English. And even if they come into the program not so fluent, that's okay. We don't disqualify you because of that. We even provide tutoring before the first summer at MEET for people who need to strengthen their language skill a bit. But this is, the common language. And technology is one, so English is something they gain as well. And in the alumni phase, we're actually teaching Hebrew and Arabic, because I personally think that that's really the common language, to know the language of each other. But English is the language of technology and business, and it's a main part of the program. Past summer, we've had students, sort of year 3 students, kind of help enforce the English rule with year 1 students. For them, it's a bit tougher, because it's suddenly, you're expected to speak English 24/7, and it's new. But it's interesting, because that's another thing that they get out of MEET, which I think they realize after is very valuable for them.
2 questions. One is, how do you think that the fact that you have Palestinians and Israeli together influence the outcome, what happens in the trainings and all that? And the second question is there any formal discussion around politics, around what's going on, or all the conversation happens in hallway conversations, or I don't know, social activities or things like that?
I don't think, okay, it is working. So to your first question about how does it actually create an impact, the fact that we're bringing the sides together. Did I get the question right? Okay. So I think actually Benji might want to answer how actually does the binational dynamic influence the educational side of the program, the academic side, if you like. I can just say from my perspective that we just get a bunch of really smart youth in the room, and as long as, you know, we do teach things that are unrelated to the conflict most of the time, which is technology, computer science, business. So directly there is no influence in that sense, but it's more about the academic program influencing their binational dynamic, because suddenly you get teams, you know, they learn through doing. So suddenly there's a Palestinian project manager who's managing an Israeli in the team, and suddenly a female Palestinian is managing a male Palestinian from the next city, and many different dynamics which are not so common maybe in the reality. And that, I think that has a big impact on changing people's mindsets and helping them question things more. But maybe Benji, do you want to say something about the teaching experience?
Hello? Hello? Yeah. From my experience, just in terms of the actual teaching and having the kids work together on the projects, the whole Israeli-Palestinian divide really kind of falls away. It's very tangential to the projects that they do during the program. So the academics are actually very, you know, they coalesce very well, and they work together very well. The politics tend to come during lunchtime, because everyone's, you know, on the same cafeteria and everyone's eating at the same tables, and we're not talking about computer science anymore, and that's sort of when it comes out. And I had some interesting experiences with that respect.
I'll also add to your second question about do we actually tackle politics. So first of all, absolutely yes. Just because the program is held in Jerusalem and we didn't choose to take them away to a bubble environment, we face things like having to get the Palestinians through the checkpoint to come to the program in the morning in the summer, for example. That's a hurdle, and sometimes it doesn't go smoothly, and there's effects to that. You know, if someone felt went through a tough experience, then they'll bring that to their classroom and they'll talk about it. And we encourage that. It's just that that's not the reason they're coming, if that makes sense. More so, this past summer, for instance, we did a marketing plan. The students had to do like a marketing plan for Rawabi, which is a Palestinian city that's being built north of Ramallah. And Israelis and Palestinians together had to learn about this new venture and think about how to get foreign companies to invest. So through a very, you know, business-oriented, let's implement our marketing strategy skills. Through this, they actually started to talk about the political implications of this, which is a really interesting and unique way to tackle politics without sort of putting that on the table and then getting people really defensive and locked in their national standpoint. So I think that's a really unique way to talk politics and to deal with the issues, but in a way that ensures, one, that we already have a foundation of trust and deep ability to work together between the students, which is something we established gradually from year 1 to year 3, and two, that even after you have a heated discussion, for example, during the Gaza war, okay, that was during the midsummer a few years ago, and it was very difficult to keep running the program while everything was happening. But we stopped and we allowed the students to talk about this and to have these discussions. But at the end, they were able to come back and say, okay, guys, now we need, you know, now it's time to move back to the project, and we have milestones and we need to get stuff done, which is really, from my experience, unheard of otherwise, where such, you know, situations externally can really destroy a group dynamic that was built. Anyone else?
Is there anybody working on a program to sort of bus kids around through the checkpoints to sort of desegregate ordinary schools? Busing kids around through the checkpoints to sort of desegregate ordinary schools, as opposed to this sort of like elite technology, you know, thing that you're doing?
Okay, so first of all, the program is not elite in the sense that it's not related to your, you know, socioeconomic family situation. We accept students across the board if they meet the academic excellence criteria and the kind of leadership potential that we're looking for. And we have students who come from refugee camps and from more developing cities inside Israel. So that's really important to us. This is not like the rich kids' school at all. Regarding schools in Palestine and the checkpoint question, I'm not really sure what exactly you're asking. Whether Palestine.
There's sort of a geographic dispersion of different minority groups that leads to sort of segregated schools, and you know, I don't know, to help people sort of learn to get along better, there needs to be sort of mixing of the schools.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably going to be difficult to set up a program like that.
I mean, you have in Israel and Palestine some schools, well, it's actually in Jerusalem on the Israeli side, that are bi-national in the sense that they bring people together for the full school experience. So Meet is extracurricular, right? So it's in addition to school. It's not instead of school. But it's more often than not, you won't see, I mean, there are no like mixed schools. It's not a very common factor. You've got Palestinian schools and Israeli schools pretty separate.
Yeah.
Most often, yeah. Okay. So thanks very much for coming to the talk, and I'd be happy to give you, we have little buttons that the student made for the Count Me In project, so I was told I should give them away as much as possible, so I'm happy to give one of those to you. And then also, if you want to know more, then come talk to me and check out our website, our Facebook page, and we want to get this spread out as much as possible. So thanks for coming and be our ambassador. Lastly, there's a sign-up sheet if you want to get our newsletter, which is once a quarter, so it's not going to flood your inbox, I promise. And I just want to say thank you very much, Benji, for organizing this and for being our Meet champion at Google in LA. So thank you very much.